It's time to turn that hobby frown upside down.
Spiky Bits.
So welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Rob Bear from SpikyBits.com, and we've got a feature today. This is the new Space Marine Stormspeeder that just came out, and this is a really cool kit. So it's $65 from Games Workshop. Of course, you can always get your hobbies for less from Dice Head, or of course Amazon or your local game store. But these days, just finding the stuff is half the battle, right? Because all these allocations and things from Games Workshop, they're not called allocations anymore because they got in trouble for that supposedly. But anyways, at least here in the States, if you want it and you see it, it's a good idea to just buy it right then, right? So this kit, it's kind of like, I don't know, 30, 40 years in the making, whatever the math is on that. In 1988, we saw the first land speeder that came out. It was metal. It took a lot to glue it together. I'm going to show it to you here in a second. And then we got a couple more, and now we've got this one. And I was a little concerned going into this, because I've put together all of them, and they were a bear, except for the Scout Speeder was actually, they started to get better with the design once they started using computers and stuff about, 8 to 9 years ago, give or take. So this one I was kind of very hopeful that they got it together and it would be easy to assemble and stuff, and you'd be able to get it to looking like the picture pretty easily, because messing with glue, sometimes there's a node takes you back. So let's take a look back at the Storm Speeders, or the speeders just in general for Marines throughout the years, and I want to give you a couple ideas of what I'm thinking when it comes to how this is going to be. So first up, forgive the potato phone picture here, but this is a classic right here. So this one is the original Space Marine Speeder from like 1988, 1989, give or take. And this thing was really hard to put together because it was all pewter, and this section right here kind of glued together, and it rarely ever actually like kind of stuck to itself. There was no indentations for the weapons up here. It was very hard to get this all together without like Kicker. Once I discovered Kicker, I was like, all things are possible. This was actually custom for this mini and stuff. So we've come a long ways. And then Forge World actually put out their version of the speeder a few years back, and that's what this one is right here. I think it was a exclusive or something like that. But either way, it was pretty cool. I never got my hands on one because it was so hard to get. But maybe you did, and you could chime in the comments below. Then we got the 3rd edition box set and the very first Space Marine Speeder, which is right here, which doesn't look different from the current Space Marine Speeder, but it's actually been redesigned since this one right here. So you can see this is the era of still push fit Space Marines. This was 1988, 89, something like that. I forget exactly, but these Marines were a push fit together still. And then this kit right here was cool because it was multi-part, and this was the first time we started seeing multi-part kits. We saw a Catachans for multi-part for the first time. We saw Space Wolf, the Grey Hunters for the first time in multi-part kit. A plastic plasma gun, amazing. Way back then, that was something cool. Now this speeder right here was very, very difficult to get together, unfortunately, because what they did was they basically made it a top and a bottom, and to get the lines together, it very rarely happened, and it was tough. It was a tough build for a novice. It was a tough build for a veteran, and you really didn't see these put together correctly at all, to be quite honest. And it was disappointing, because that was all we had back then. But we made it work, and you saw them on the tabletop, and it was great, especially around 2004, 2005 when everybody was using Rendy. Now, speaking of 2004, 2005, that's when we got a redesign of the current land speeder, which actually comes with all the options. I don't think this is American money. I think this is Australian dollars. I didn't check, but that doesn't look right. So this kit right here eventually came out with pewter parts in the early 2000s, so you could upgrade it to make the Tornado. Now it comes with everything in the box, so you can make the Typhoon variant, you can make the Tornado variant here with the assault cannon. All of this is plastic, but what they actually did on the sly, and I think it was a great idea once they made this stuff in plastic, they actually took and made this section right here on the top in plastic as well, which was which was really, really good, because then you could actually get this thing together correctly and not have all those really bad gap lines. And then in the early 2000s, they came out with the Landspeeder Storm, which they built, in my opinion, probably the best way to do it, where you actually build the superstructure up and then the top kind of clamped down at predetermined points. And this Speeder Storm went together perfect. It's a great kit. You don't have to make all the scouts because it's extra stuff to paint, but that was a really good kit. So fast forward to now, and we're like, okay, cool, we got the Stormspeeder, and here it is. And I was really, really worried that, you know, it would be very difficult to put together. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So that's about the last, you know, since 1988. I don't know what the math is on that. It's around 30, 40 years, but that's where we're at now for Speeder. So let's see how this one shakes up. So opening this bad boy up, we know there's a lot of variants in here. We know there's, well, at least a couple different variants. So we got the instruction manual, we got 3 sprues, it looks like, this new flying stand. Now there's an interesting new flying stand with the Necron scythe that I think we've done a post about at this point. It's a little bit bigger, and it kind of replaces the old triangle stand that came out with the Valkyrie in 2007, I want to say. But this one's a little bit smaller, so I guess that's why they kind of went with this, which is also the one, I think, for the Achilleodon out of the Adonis Deepkin in Sigmar. But either way, that's not really super important, or it could be, because we got to figure out how to actually attach this thing to the flying stand here. So we've got 3 sprues, which is really like 1 sprue and a half type of kit. And, you know, for the most part, it looks like that we've got some sides here, so it's probably going to build up from the bottom. Yep, so it does build up from the bottom right here, which is probably a good idea. So we're not trying to clamp 2 clamshells down on top of each other, which, as I talked about earlier, didn't quite work. And looks like there's a lot of sensors, and of course there's grab, and then all the different pilots. Looks like some left and right halves for all the front weapons, which, you know, kind of figured that would be something like that. And yeah, it doesn't look too bad. So far, I'm cautiously optimistic, and this, I think, is a 100mm base right here. Back in focus, we can take a look at the instruction manual. So jumping into this, we could see that right off the bat, we know there's going to be 3 different weapon types at the top. And then it looks like you just start assembling the inside of the speeder itself up from the bottom, which I think is a smart idea. Then you put the sides on right here, the mounts for the anti-grav. And I like how they give you all these yellow surfaces, and that's where you know to put the glue. Now, I'm going to put this together using my super thin Tamiya glue, which I think is ideal for stuff like this, because yeah, it takes a hot minute more to glue together and you can hold it, but it's not something that if you use traditional super glue and you mess up, it's gonna make this whole project a nightmare. And I think the super thin Tamiya glue is great for stuff like this too, because it not only does it fill the gaps where they do occur, and that's great for this stuff because it's all designed with the computer and it has a lot of very, very narrow gaps. The tolerances are always great on this stuff, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot of load-bearing sections because everything's touching an area. So this is great for that glue. I might be eating my words here in a minute, but that's kind of how I'm feeling. And then the pilots glue together here and glue into here. And if I had to guess, you wouldn't have to glue these down. You can paint them separate because all this stuff, like I said, has such tight tolerances. And then you put some sensors underneath here, some fairings in the front, no big deal, or probes, whatever you want to call them, drogues, I don't know. Some sensors in here, kind of harkening back to the old pewter bits they used to put in the Tornado, which is really cool to see. Then you build up the fairings and the stabilizers on the front and the bottom, or the dorsal and the ventral, whatever you want to call it, and some anti-gravs. It looks like the anti-gravs form an assembly right here. And then the turret, okay, so you're gonna have this part that you don't want to glue because I guess everything locks into it to swivel up and down. And then this, you also don't want to glue the little duder there, which I guess gets into here through his little gimp hatch in the back. Let me in. I love it. And you switch out the weapons here. Now, all these missiles are a missile launcher. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel like you need to switch this stuff up. Now, this is obviously a missile launcher. This is a missile launcher. But, I mean, seriously, like, at this point in time, we really can't hobby shame each other because, like, if it has a missile launcher and it has this, I don't care if it's a Hammer Strike or a Thunder Strike. Dog, if your Mini has a missile launcher on it, we're cool. If your Mini is supposed to have this little gun thing, whatever it is, I don't know, the Hell Strike or some sort of super stubber, you know, and it has a super stubber, that's cool. But if it has a missile launcher, I'm not cool with that. But if you go through the effort to make it so this switches or this switches, but these could be either, I'm okay with that too. Obviously, that's a las cannon. Obviously, that's some sort of multi-melta, and obviously that's an assault cannon. So all those, to me, weapons need to be present, but I'm not going to differentiate through these stupid things on the side. These are all a missile launcher to me, and these on the top are all a missile launcher to me too. The releases are coming too fast and furious for us to, you know, heckle and have to rebuild a whole kit because one little missile is more rounder or has 3 little rounds on it instead of 2 little rounds on it. Like, come on. At some point, you just gotta let it go. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't put smoke launchers on our vehicles. Well, not that that's a thing anymore. You know, we don't have ammo packs. We don't have close combat weapons on a lot of our Marines. At some point, you just gotta be like, hey, like, is it a missile launcher? Yes. Okay, cool. I'm good. You know what I mean? But, so it looks like to assemble the weapons themselves going to be pretty straightforward. So yes, they do attach to this little swivel rod right here. Get some armor plates and stuff that you could keep off. It looks like they snap in, maybe not snap, but slot in. And then left and right halves here for all of the front mounted vehicle weapons. And then same thing, you build up the missile pods here, and you're probably going to choose a front or a back. So that there's no way that's going to even be magnetizable. And then these right here are so small and so fiddly, I don't even think it's worth magnetizing them. It looks like these missiles go underneath here as well, but only for this Stormspeeder Thunderstrike variant. So it looks like that's the only one that has missiles. Now, missiles are always tricky to magnetize. I feel like you just glue them on there regardless after you paint them. Because, I mean, unless you're going to have a thin strip of tin on there and a little magnet, or maybe just 2 magnets, because if you only use one, it's going to actually swivel and torque on you. So that's a tough one too, right? I would just glue it on there and just be like, whatever, it's a missile, it's on there. You either use it or you don't, or it's part of your thing. It just looks dope. I mean, that's a cool little missile. I don't think we've seen a Sidewinder, or was that Sparrow looking thing in a while on a kit. There was like the Hell Strikes and stuff like that. Then you've got the missile pod here, and again, it's just 4 little nubs on the front versus these round nubs. I mean, come on, it's a missile launcher, guys. Pick which one you think is the coolest, and don't shame people because they're like, oh, this is the hammer strike. Well, actually, no, it's not the hammer strike. You don't have 4 missiles on there. Like, dog, it's a $65 kit. Like, I don't know what the new edition or the new FAQ coming out next week is going to change for my miniature. I'm going to try to magnetize it as much as I can, but dog, at the end of the day, like, we can't be buying new kits all the time because GW just changes the rules. You know what I'm saying? And then the stand goes on here. It looks about an eyeball that. I would say it's about 3 inches tall. I haven't measured it yet, but yeah, that definitely looks about 3 inches tall. And it just glues on. And then there's all your weapon options, your IKEA thing on the back. I know that was a lot of words, but I'm feeling good about this kit. We'll see how it goes. So here it is, and well, we got a lot to talk about here. So size-wise, it's smaller than a Rhino, give or take. Yep. So I guess about wider, but theoretically the inside is smaller. So that's really cool to see. Like, it's basically a larger flying version of a Rhino. I guess it's about the same as the Dark Shroud. Probably the Dark Shroud's probably a little wider for Dark Angels. Put a few of those together. Now this kit, like, you don't have to glue everything in for sure, because if you want to come back and paint it, you can do a lot of that. So if you glue the supports into themselves so they lock into the front piece right here, you can actually keep this off in case, you know, you want to paint some of this differently, or just so you can get into your Marines right here, because these guys actually slot in pretty snug and secure. So you can just kind of play with it as is until you get to paint to it, which is always nice. And then of course the front definitely comes off too, because I left that. Now you just want to be really careful when you're putting all this stuff together. You want to just make sure you get all the burrs off and everything like that, so that everything lines up, because it will line up exactly. There isn't a lot of tolerance here, so you want to make sure that you get all of that lined up. You build a good foundation coming up, otherwise your walls will be off. But it all locks in pretty well, as you can see here. I mean, it locks together so well that I didn't even have to use glue yet on any of this. Now obviously I would go back and glue it when I was ready to paint it, but until then I would probably just leave this off because it just basically slots right in. Now speaking of glue, I put a little dabs of glue on the end of these right here, so we wouldn't have to magnetize them, and because magnetizing this you could, but it's only one little thing right here, and it sticks in and it stays on pretty well. The same with the weapons in the front here as well. I put just a little dab of glue to make them nice and snug so they sit in there very, very well, and depending on which one you want, I pulled off the armor plates right there. So depending on which one you want to do, you can just slot them out. And then of course on the back here too, and I'm just gonna pull this off. Yes, Annie. So Annie's here. She wants to talk about speeders too. These actually slot right in. And I did a little glue trick. You don't have to magnetize it, although you could, but then it wouldn't flip up and down. I suppose it would because it was magnets. So here you can see that, well, I got it out of sync right there, that they will actually lock in. Now you could choose and be like, I'm always gonna run either the rockets and kind of glue them down if you wanted to, or you could take, probably some little, I guess that would be about an 1/8 inch magnet. You could actually just glue the 1/8 inch magnet right there, an 1/8 inch magnet right there, and you would be good to go if you really wanted to. You don't have to though, because this you can switch out pretty well for the most part. With the Hellstorm guns right here, and then these will rotate as well. So you can put a little dab of that super thin glue on the end and then make it nice and kind of sticky, and then just kind of work it so they don't actually stick to it, but you are able to kind of move them around and do some different things with them right there. And then of course here's the little rockets that, again, I was talking about that, like that would be really hard to magnetize if you really wanted to. So I would just probably paint these separate and then just glue them on. Because I just think it looks really cool right there. Although you could take a little thin piece strip of tin and put it right here if you really wanted to, and put, shave these down flush and put a magnet right there. You could do that. Although I just think it's more work than probably the return on that right there. Now let's talk about how to actually secure this thing down, because it comes with this big 100mm round. This is the same as the Armigers, and you've got this stand right here, right? And it is about 3 inches tall. I measured it. So this is supposed to glue in with the ball and socket right here, however you want. So you can have them doing like some jink poses or whatever you want to do right there, or just kind of doing a dive, whatever. But you're locked into using this. So I got a couple ideas on what to do about this. I've magnetized a lot of stands in the past, but our buddies over at Magnet Baron actually have a solution that I think would be very easy for this. But barring that, what you could do is just take and shave this right off with a little nice big bone saw from Army Painter, which I don't have mine handy unfortunately, but it's just basically a big hobby saw, and just shave it down flush, put a magnet on that, and then you could put a magnet right on here. Now this looks to be about 3/8 of an inch. Don't know what that is right off the top of my head in metric, sorry. But that looks like that. You could just socket one right in there, and you could put one on this, or you could put a bigger one on this. If you felt like you needed support, you could take some tubing and put the tubing over top of this and lock that in. That's what I did for a lot of my Eldor Wave Serpents back in the day. I just used a piece of tubing and then put the magnet right on top, and then it locked in and stabilized, because this is the spot where it's the center of mass right there. But if you have a little bit extra cheddar and don't want to waste a bunch of time doing all that, but again, don't want to glue down your brand new $65 speeder onto something like that just to have it break off constantly, Magnet Baron probably has a solution for you. Okay, so over on Magnet Baron's site, they have this, what I think is a great solution. Now, it is a little on the pricey side, considering that the price of the kit is $65. And Annie wants to get down. She likes it when I hold her, but she doesn't like being held that long. Cats. So they have this kit here that he says works for a lot of the small to medium type kits, which is exactly what we have right here. So it's a 4x large posable magnet flying stands with rock anchors, and I like the rock anchors. You can't see it in this picture right here because I guess he didn't have them back then, but what the anchors do is they lock it into the base. So no matter what base you put it on, if it's a Resin Scenic base or it's a GW base right here, it'll lock in. And what I like about this kit too, and I actually use these on my Custody jet bikes. I don't think he offers this variant anymore, but it has this like round top right here. And here, let's just get down to the content. So the acrylic rod is 60 or 76 millimeters in height. So obviously we want 76 because that's about 3 inches. 8 disc magnets because you have to attach the rock to the stand to the top of the stand. Well, the 2 magnets on top of the stand. And then you're gonna have the countersunk ring magnet at the very top, and the ball bearing as well. Oh, it looks like there's 4. So it comes with 4 of these? Oh, Okay, so I guess it's so okay. So for $24.99, I guess you get enough to do 4. So that makes more sense. So you can do a fleet of these things. So I was like, it's a little pricey, but now it makes sense. And I was like, because you don't need 4 ball bearings. So I actually think this is the kit that I use for my Custody jet bike. So I'm gonna go grab those real quick. Now that I'm looking at this, I was like, wait, this is starting to make way more sense. But I wanna show you something else that I've done that I think would be, which is why I trust these stands completely. It's a very large kit and these magnets work great. So this is one of my fleet of Custody jet bikes, which I think Constantine over at Magnet Baron repurposed this product from these guys because it's a little too tall for these guys, but I didn't care, whatever. I got these very early on, and I think this is really cool because you can do high-speed zooms and stuff like that. In a storm, I just basically take this and I put it on the base, and then I put them in my case, and it's all great because they're all magnetized, even the bottoms right there. But so you can see the kit is one of these magnets, the ball bearing at the top, that actually sockets into this because this is a convex dugout, and then right here is the magnetized bit right there that they were talking about in that. So this would be perfect, boom, to put right there. So think about that for a second, and it looks like it would just go right over top of it, and you really wouldn't have to dig it out and maybe put a little bit of extra glue in there, and then once you have that, you would be able to socket this thing onto the stand right here, and I'm pretty sure it will definitely handle the weight because it looks like it's balanced perfectly. Obviously, I have no way to try it out because I don't have a spare one of these kits, but there's always a bigger kit out there too to balance these things on. And speaking of bigger, well, here is exactly what I'm talking about. So here's that rock sort of thing on a very large scale. Now, Constantine didn't have those when I got these Custody jet bike ones right here, unfortunately, but we may do. I was kind of an early adopter on that, so no big deal. I do like that he goes back and he, improves his products and make things better based on the response from the community. So we have a much larger stand right here, as you can see. And this is designed for much larger vehicles, such as Custody's Ares gunship, or the Thunderhawk is actually the same stand for the Thunderhawk. I'm not sure about if it will fit the Stormbird or not, but it definitely probably could. Let me get the gun right in there. So, I mean, I've played a lot with this attached to this here on my Ares gunship. Haven't had any problems whatsoever, and this will definitely support the weight. So, whether you want to do something this big or something this big, there's definitely a flying stand solution out there for you. That now that we figured out that you get 4 of those for $24.99, I think that's probably the one to go with for the Stormspeeder. So that is about it. We've showed you everything that we had discovered about this kit already. Although I did want to mention one thing on one of these weapons, and I forget exactly which one it is. The one side is supposed to have nubs and then a hole to insert into, and the other side is supposed to mirror it. But however, GW, I guess, kind of messed it up. So you're gonna have to cut off one set of nubs because they actually don't match up. You're not crazy. That actually is a design error on one of these front mounted vehicle weapons right there. Oh no, everything's falling off now. But other than that, I think it's a great kit, very well designed, mostly for easy to build, except for the flight stand. I think is kind of buster, but we've already showed you kind of what we think you could do about that, and I think those stands we just discovered over at Magnet Baron are 100% perfect for that. But you could make your own out of acrylic rod, tubing, some magnets, and different things like that. It's just, do you want to save some time, or do you want to just go ahead and do it yourself? And that's really the eternal hobby question, right? And also, I do want to mention that you can get a bit of a discount over at Magnet Baron as well, and I want to show you how to do that. So a little bit of a shameless plug here. Of course, if you help support us over on Patreon for as little as $10 a month, and you actually get 10 miniatures back for that $10 in your first month, there is a bunch of discounts you can get, and one of them is Magnet Baron, as well as a bunch of other folks right there. You can see the full list. I think this needs to be updated, but regardless, you get this. You get ad-free viewing over on Spiky Bits and a bunch of miniatures, a little 3D sampler pack, as well as some other stuff there. So definitely check it out. Patreon.com/SpikyBits. So that is it for this one, y'all. Thank you very much for watching. Please head over to Magnet Baron, pick up those really dope flying stands if this is your thing. If not, make your own. And before you leave, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to give me the very first to like and comment on all our videos.